Recorded. It is accessible.
Evet, geçit o Wi-Fi işlemi.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello out there. My name is Stephen Connor. I'm a member of the Paradise Valley Baha'i community, and it is my honor to co-host and sponsor this event with the town of Paradise Valley for the 24th year now. The celebration that we have planned today, of course, for the second year in a row has to be virtual. God willing, we'll get past this pandemic and be able to host this event once again live and face-to-face. We have a very robust program prepared for you today. And to formally welcome us here to start our ceremony is the mayor of Paradise Valley, Jerry Bien-Willner. Jerry?
Well, thank you so much for that kind introduction. I'm Jerry Bien-Willner, the mayor of the town of Paradise Valley. And I, first of all, would like to welcome you all, friends, citizens, those participating virtually, to the 24th Town of Paradise Valley Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day celebration. On behalf of the town council, it is my privilege to participate in this homage to Dr. King and his vision for a better world for all of us. We greatly, greatly appreciate the longstanding and valuable work of the Baha'i community of Paradise Valley and the committee of volunteers and town staff who work so hard to make the celebration a reality each year, and for everyone whose involvement makes this event possible. Thank you so much. As always, the committee has prepared a wonderful program today, beginning with the great music we heard, to inspire each of us for the coming year, to act in our community, our state, our great nation, and indeed across the world, to bring us closer to the American ideal and the society that Dr. King foresaw for us. 50 years ago, in his ageless "I Have a Dream" speech, he laid out his vision for a just society in America. It is up to each of us to make the dream of a better world for all a reality, and that commitment renews each and every day. Here's to a brighter future for us all and for future generations for whom we serve and must set an example as we reconnect and recommit to our core common values as individuals and as a community. As our Pledge of Allegiance reminds us, one nation under God with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
We always formally start the program with a prayer or a benediction. And this year, the Bahá'ís of Paradise Valley will offer a prayer. I want to just briefly introduce the prayer. It was written by the son of the founder of the Baha'i faith, Abdu'l-Baha, who came to America in 1912. And it was largely Abdu'l-Baha's influence which created the impetus for Baha'is to be involved in issues of import and social concern, which in many ways leads to our sponsorship of this event when we took it up 24 years ago. So here is Abdu'l-Baha's prayer for America revealed by him in 1912.
Prayer for America. O thou kind Lord, this gathering is turning to thee. These hearts are radiant with thy love. These minds and spirits are exhilarated by the message of thy glad tidings. O God, let this American democracy become glorious in spiritual degrees, even as it has aspired to material degrees, and render this just government victorious. Confirm this revered nation to upraise the standards of the oneness of humanity, to promulgate the most great peace, to become thereby most glorious and praiseworthy among all the nations of the world. O God, this American nation is worthy of thy favors and is deserving of thy mercy. Make it precious and near to thee through thy bounty and bestowals. Abdu'l-Baha.
Thank you, Taj. Greatly appreciate that. Each year, the committee that puts together the event strives to find some of the best musical talent that it can assemble for the event. And today we have the honor of a trio from Flagstaff, Arizona. two of whom are Bahá'ís, who have come down to regale us with a couple pieces. We have, if you could come up, please. Yep. We have on bass, Arie Werbrouck. Arie is an artisan who makes musical instruments, and his specialty includes crafting violins and cellos. Arie, is that one of your cellos? It's not. It's not. All right. Sorry. He studied jazz and bass at the New England Conservatory of Music in Boston, and he currently plays in a number of jazz and funk bands in Flagstaff. On woodwinds, we have John Marcus. John is a multi-instrumentalist. He teaches music at the Flagstaff School of Music. He's also involved in creating meditational music and sound, healing with his wife, Carmen. And in addition, he is the founder of the Orpheus Jazz Ensemble. And then last, but certainly not least, the guy that kind of tied the other two together to come down today is Greg McCallister on percussion and voice. Greg is a historian and musician and artist. He is a lecturer in ethnic studies program at Northern Arizona University, and his current teaching and research includes examining writings and speeches of Martin Luther King in relations to issues of the 21st century. So here's Greg to introduce the first piece today.
So we're going to start out with a traditional. So I'm going to do some spoken word, and it's really based on two speeches that Martin Luther King made during the last year of his life. So it's going to be a mix. We as a nation must undergo a radical revolution of values. A revolution of values. We must rapidly begin the shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society. When machines and computers and profit motives and property rights are considered more important than people, the giant triplets of racism, extreme materialism, and militarism are incapable of being conquered. We must rapidly begin the shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society. A true revolution of values will soon cause us to question the fairness and justice of many of our past and present policies. Martin Luther King, Beyond Vietnam, April 4th, 1967. King speaks of some of the violence, some of the turmoil that took place in the 60s. And King puts it within a context. He says, the Black Revolution is much more than the struggle for the rights of Negroes. It is forcing America to face all its interrelated flaws. Racism, poverty, militarism, and materialism. It's all about change, transformation, transforming ourselves, transforming society. We can't ignore the flaws, but we have to have hope. We have to have love.
Thank you very much, guys. And thank you, Greg. That was very inspirational for the words of Dr. King. Every year we have two speakers, one of whom is a Baha'i and presents a Baha'i perspective on the theme. This year's theme is Seeing Hope in Changing Times. And this year we have the honor of hearing Mr. Brandon Bullock. Brandon is a Baha'i from Chandler, Arizona. He is a husband and father of 5 children. Brandon is a graduate of Cal Berkeley in environmental sciences, and currently he is vice president at Bank of America. Brandon has worked with various youth groups for decades and has been a guest lecturer at Arizona State University on race-related dynamics and critical need to understand one another. In his family, Brandon's grandfather was an advocate of the civil rights movement and an activist, so that probably goes back a couple generations. I'm very pleased to honor and present to you Mr. Brandon Bullock.
Hello, thank you very much. I want to get started by first also, I guess, starting over and welcoming everyone today. I want to thank the city of Paradise Valley and the Baha'i community of Paradise Valley for allowing me to actually speak today and share some thoughts on this day where we're commemorating the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. As we know, Martin Luther King is best known for his I Have a Dream speech. And that dream that he shared with us is inspired generations. And it was this idea that, you know, we would hopefully one day in America, we would judge each other by the content of their character rather than the color of their skin. And it's obviously something that's been very moving to me and most Americans. But I think as I began to study more of Martin Luther King's writings and speeches, there was a hope that I saw that was expressed over and over. And that hope was that America would one day live up to its own promise. This own promise that all men were created equal. This own promise of e pluribus unum, from many one. What his hope was for America was oneness, was unity, a true brotherhood. You know, not simply just about rights and freedoms, but about fellowship. And I think this is something that's really important for us to understand, that it's not merely about, let's make sure everybody has a fair shake. That's actually really important, no question about that. But what's deeper behind that is we learn to actually love one another. We learn to interact with one another with love and reverence and fellowship and friendship. And we start to see each other as family. So let's just take an account of where we are, because I hope today to talk about this hope of our oneness. And one of the things I want to share is that, like, we've come a long way in the last 50 to 60 years. there's been tremendous growth in terms of racial relations and our understanding of one another. So much so that if, let's say today, someone gave a speech that was openly bigoted, openly racial and ugly and mean-spirited, we collectively as Americans would probably go, hey, that's not okay. That's not cool. We've kind of evolved. We've kind of evolved to a point where we recognize like that kind of vitriol is not okay, and it's not okay. And that's beautiful. But I also want to reflect that may not be entirely true across the board. As I was preparing for this, I started to realize, like, hey, what are the barriers to this oneness that Dr. Martin King was asking for? And I realized that if today a speaker got up in front of an audience and they said truly mean-spirited and bigoted things about liberals, they're likely to receive applause. And that if a liberal got up and spoke ugly and mean-spirited things about conservatives, they would likely receive applause. And this is what's very dangerous, is we've somehow been lulled into this acceptance of open bigotry, hatred, and divisiveness. And it's being perpetuated by our so-called news sources, social media. It's everywhere. We've even politicized racial dynamics. And so we've moved into this place where we're being convinced that half of the country is un-American, unrational, not good, worthy of not just disagreement, but contempt. And I'm hoping today we can talk about maybe some solutions to inoculate ourselves from this virus, this disease that is literally, it's spreading all over the place. And it's seemingly increasing in its fervor and its danger. And so I started to reflect, so how can I inoculate myself from this? And a couple of thoughts occurred to me. I started to reflect on my childhood. I was a Black family. We moved into a white suburb in Los Angeles. We were one of the first Black families to do that. And this was like in the early 80s. And let's just say it wasn't good. It was actually pretty ugly. I experienced a lot of ugliness as a child growing up in my teenage years. And I was reflecting on this with some of my African-American friends, is why I, Brandon, didn't grow up hating white people, though I had plenty of experiences that could have justified hating and distrusting. And I realized what it really had to do with is being raised in a Baha'i community. I was raised in a very multicultural environment. I had friends and family from different races and cultures and economic backgrounds and educational levels. And I had already experienced a great deal of love from white people. They were my friends and family. They were people that cared about me, and I cared about them, and I knew them. And so when I experienced pain and cruelty from specific people, I didn't generalize it about everyone. I just said those people weren't very nice. And I compared that with some of my friends who had experienced similar, cruelty. And I noticed that in their cases, oftentimes that pain became universal. All people were like this. All people were like that. And I realized it was because of that relationship with love and fellowship and friendship and family that I was inoculated to that uglier disease. And what scares me today is that I was going to do an exercise, but obviously because of COVID, we don't have a lot of people here. I was going to ask everybody to take out your cell phones and go to your social media page and scroll through it and see. And these and go to whether it's MySpace or Instagram or Facebook or whatever, however old you are, and just look at the pictures that you uploaded into your social media. And I was going to ask everyone, do they all look like you? Do they all think like you? Because if they do, I'm not saying you're bigoted. I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm not saying any of that. That's not my conclusion. That's not where I'm going. What I am saying, that you might be at risk for catching that disease, catching that virus of bigotry and ugliness and divisiveness. And I'm realizing that it's these relationships that serve as an anchor that stops us from going too far in our pains. And so this is one of those areas where I hope that I'm asking for the community. Really, my ask to you today is very much what Martin Luther King said 50, 60 years ago. I don't know if everyone knows this, but he used to organize race amity meetings. He would organize things with the Jewish community. He'd organize things with white churches, and they've had picnics and they'd hang out and they would form friendships. And many of those friendships lasted a lifetime. And they served as bridges for those communities so that more friendships could bond. And those served as bridges for more people. And so my ask today is, in this hope of a future, in this world that's actually getting increasingly divisive, is that we actually take the moment and the time to actually form bonds of friendship with people that are different than ourselves. And I don't mean being friendly with other people, being polite and mannerly. That's wonderful, that's good. I mean friendships, real bonds of love, because only when those real bonds of love happen are we in position to negate the nonsense. Because I'll tell you, I've had many of my conservative friends, all liberals are like this, and all my liberal friends, all conservatives are like this. And I go, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's not true. I know that's not true. I don't believe it's not true. I know it's not true. And when my white friends say all black people are like this, and my black friends say all white people are like this, I go, whoa, no, that's not true. I know it's not true because I know people that are loving and kind and moral and intelligent and want to see a better world. And I think that our isolation is dangerous breeding ground for this virus. It's a dangerous breeding ground for this ignorance. And so my ask today is that we actually make an effort to get to know one another and have the courage to actually deepen those relationships. And it's a tough ask. We have the inertia of our lives, our habits. Well, I have the people in my life. I'm very comfortable. I get it. We're all like that. But this is where we start going, okay, where's that worry in us, that person that wants to make a difference? And we may not realize that simple relationships from people that are different from ourselves is actually an incredible opportunity for ourselves, but also our broader communities. So I'd like to leave you guys, before I go, I'm gonna share a quote from the Baha'i writings that touches on this. And then I actually share with maybe singing a prayer. So it says, this is from the Baha'i writings, it says, when you meet those whose opinions differ from your own, do not turn away your face from them. All are seeking the truth, and there are many roads leading thereto. Truth has many aspects, but it remains always and forever one. Do not allow differences of opinion or diversity of thought to separate you from your fellow men, or to be the cause of dispute, hatred, and strife in your hearts. Rather, search diligently for the truth and make all men your friends. So before I go, I'd like to leave with a prayer for the unity. And so, O kind Lord, unite all, let the religions agree, and make the nations one, so that they may see each other as one family, and the whole world is one home. Thank you very much. You guys have a blessed day.
Thank you, Brandon, very much. Thank you. Thank you. Friends, this brings us to the portion of the program for the 10th year. The Paradise Valley Martin Luther King Committee has sponsored an essay contest for students and residents of Paradise Valley, either Paradise Valley schools, Paradise Valley residents, or any youth who might have a connection to Paradise Valley, for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And the theme, as I mentioned earlier, is seeing hope in changing times. This year, there were 56 submissions, which of course we welcome, but then again, we have to read, review, discuss, and consult and choose the winners. This year, for the first time, we had a tie. So there are actually two winners for the 6th grade category. So this year, as I mentioned, is the 10th year. And this past weekend, because we're virtual, the students received their trophies and their $50 gift certificate. And they will be honored at a subsequent follow-up meeting at the Paradise Valley Town Council. And I think Mayor Willner will work to coordinate that event where they can be formally recognized for their achievements. This year, the winners were, and my apologies if I mispronounce any of your names, please. In the 5th grade is Neriah Safir. The 6th grade winners, which had a tie, are Jayden Robinson and Amelie Kennedy. I think she pronounces that Emily. The 7th grade winner was Lili Chaidez, and the 8th grade winner was Helen Hill. Congratulations to all the winners and their teachers and parents for raising such wonderful children. We'll now have a short video presentation of this year's winners. Thank you. Congratulations, students, and thank you once again, committee who did the legwork. Now it's time for our second musical presentation by our Flagstaff trio. So welcome back up, Greg, Arie, and John. Thank you. Thank you. Greg McCallister, Werbrouck, and John Marcus, all the way from Flagstaff. That's a piece I think we all know and we can all tap. Enjoyed very, very much. Okay, friends, this brings us to the main event of today. And it's my pleasure to bring back up Mayor Jerry Bien-Willner to introduce the keynote speaker and 2022 Diversity Champion.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, let me once again thank our talented musical trio and our wonderful speaker and inspirational words from Mr. Brandon Bullock. Much appreciated. Thank you, sir. It is my privilege to introduce our keynote speaker and the recipient of the Town of Paradise Valley Diversity Champion Award, Paula G. Cullison. Paula is a major social entrepreneur. She began her career as a social worker in New York City and soon progressed into another calling, that of community activist, starting with the Cesar Chavez movement. Her activism blossomed into a host of causes, including human rights, social justice, women's issues, healthcare, and the environment, particularly focusing on causes affecting women and children. Along with her wide and deep activism, she has vast experience in marketing, management, public relations, social work, of course, education, international travel writing, and photography. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to give you Paula Cullison, our keynote speaker and the recipient of the 2022 Town of Paradise Valley Diversity Champion Award. Paula.
Well, good morning, Mayor Jerry Bien-Willner, members of the MLK committee, and guests. I'm deeply honored and humbled by this Martin Luther King Diversity Award. Thank you to the committee for this honor. Thank you to my family and my family of friends for being with me every step of the way. And it's been a long journey. I am the daughter of Italian immigrants who stressed the importance of hard work, good education, and helping others. My mom and dad believed that anything was possible in America and that education was the key to success. 6 of us lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn. It's hard to believe, but it's true. Dad worked nights as a pressman for the New York Times. Mom worked as a seamstress for a number of top fashion designers in the garment industry in New York City. My parents, both of whom were union members, eventually saved for a house with a furnished basement, small backyard garden in the same neighborhood, close to the subway. We moved when I was 13 years of age. My siblings and I were very serious students. We all graduated from college. Whether I was handing out leaflets on the street corners of New York City, checking the grape and lettuce cartons during the farm worker boycotts, demonstrating for no more war toys, organizing for the first Earth Day event, working for Indigenous people's rights, the passage of the Equal Rights Amendment, ending racism, or for a just and peaceful world, I was committed and continue to be driven to work for social change. As the women's movement gained momentum in the 1970s, I saw the need to make sure that women had an equal voice in the change that was happening. As they say, the hand that rocks the cradle must also rock the boat. In the words of the late US Congresswoman from New York, Shirley Chisholm, whose campaign I worked on, if there is no seat at the table for you, bring a folding chair. All effective social movements start at the grassroots level. It's trickle up and not trickle down. Most movements bear the face of individuals. Reverend Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks for the civil rights movement, Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta for organizing the United Farm Workers, Malala Yousafzai for the education of girls in Pakistan, Greta Thunberg for sounding the alarm about environmental climate change, Annie Wanika for eradicating TB on the Navajo Nation, Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu for dismantling apartheid in South Africa, Susan B. Anthony for the women's right to vote. But we all know that it takes a village to make change. Time, tenacity, and a thick skin are all part of the equation. For example, one day while handing out leaflets on the street corners in New York City, obviously pregnant with Pamela, and then with a toddler in tow, Gregory, a man approached me with an argumentative question. Why don't you just go home and take care of your children? To which I replied, that's exactly what I'm doing, working for a better society for them and for others. When I was president of Women in Management for a large corporation and discovered that living women in Arizona were not being formally recognized for their accomplishments, I created 1985, the Year for All Arizona Women. I intended to have only 5 major events. However, the project snowballed into over 100 events with over 10,000 attendees. I had to take a leave of absence from my job. A wonderfully diverse group of women and men volunteered to help. I then internationalized the project and gave a presentation at the UN Decade Conference on Women in Nairobi, Kenya. That was June of 1965. As a result, I was then invited to the World Congress of Women, a peace conference in Moscow, 1987, entitled Towards the Year 2000 Without Nuclear War. We kind of got there. In 1989, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Surprise. As laughter is the best medicine, my recovery consisted of watching comedies. 2 years later, I coordinated the Arizona part of a grassroots movement, which became the National Breast Cancer Coalition. At that time, I organized a rally at the Arizona State Capitol. It opened with a native blessing and music from a group I found at a farmer's market, the Trinidad Calypso Band. The rally ended with writing names on a pink bedsheet and a candlelight vigil. My daughter and I brought the bedsheet to our US congressman at the time and asked that he vote for funding for breast cancer research. As part of the newly established National Breast Cancer Coalition, I, with many others, lobbied Congress for the research funding from the Department of Defense. We were able to secure $175 million. And I was then invited to serve on the National Grant Review Committee. At the time, 1 in 9 women were subject to being diagnosed with breast cancer. In 1998, as president of the United Nations Association of Phoenix, I co-facilitated with support from the Paradise Valley Baha'i community, a 50th anniversary event to celebrate UN Human Rights Day. The response to the event was overwhelming. Then I worked on another project, UN World Health Day. I organized a conference for refugee women's health at Phoenix College. We had a standing room only crowd. In 2002, when I began to realize that most of the grant money and media coverage was focused on large nonprofits, I established the Arizona Women's Partnership, an all-volunteer philanthropic nonprofit to fund small grassroots nonprofits. One local podcaster termed AZWP as a united way for small charities. Our AZWP grant recipients address critical issues: domestic violence, child abuse, hunger, literacy, ESL, foster care, refugee families, and at-risk youth. They serve culturally diverse populations throughout the state of Arizona. Our Faces of Hope photography exhibit, which is also a video on our website, azwp.org, shows the faces of the women and children who are helped through our grants, which are awarded to nonprofits. To date, we have awarded over $500,000 in grants. As an all-volunteer philanthropic nonprofit, we rely on the kindness and generosity of many. In 2013, my international travel photography exhibits since 2013. The exhibits have been viewed by over 100,000 community college and university students, as well as the general public via various juried art shows. My goal is to encourage world peace through travel. One of my photographs was selected for the Servas International Peace Exhibition in Russia. That was last year. And 2 were selected for an international art festival in the United Arab Emirates, which I attended in 2019. And the beat goes on. In 2020, to honor the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, the women's right to vote, I decided on another idea, an art exhibition. And so I curated a juried art exhibit entitled In Celebration of Women. The jury, the selected works of 30 female artists, and the entertainment for the event at the Herberger reflected the cultural diversity and richness in Arizona: Hispanic, Native, Black, Asian, Middle Eastern, and Anglo. A record-breaking crowd of over 500 attended the opening reception during Women's History Month. Shortly thereafter, COVID hit. The exhibition was placed online for 6 months. We still have plans to have this exhibit at the Arizona State Capitol Museum later this year. I was recently asked to curate another culturally diverse women's art exhibit at the Herberger for 2023. I accepted. As you might have guessed, I have often been referred to as the Energizer Bunny. Maybe I still have the New York City hustle in me. I really don't know. But I do believe that most people want to help others. We fully realize that we're in this together. As Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Be they inequities in public school education, unfair labor practices, environmental pollution and degradation, disparities in healthcare, prison reform, or voter suppression. There is plenty of work to be done. As Amanda Gorman noted in her new poem, for when we come together, we will overcome. As Gandhi urged us, be the change you wish to see in the world. My mother was very fond of sunflowers, known in Italian as girasole, because they always turn to the sun. So in 2022, let's be like the sunflowers, looking up and facing the sun as we work together for a brighter tomorrow. As we consider her story, I want to quote a great woman who stood beside a great man. The greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members, a heart of grace and a soul generated by love. Coretta Scott King. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. So Mayor, if you could come forward, please.
Where do you need it?
Congratulations, Paula. Well-deserved and a lifetime dedicated to social progress. Very inspirational. Thank you very much. Well, each year, the committee likes to close the event with the actual words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So the committee has prepared a short video of Dr. King and his inspirational words.
And we must either learn to live together as brothers, or we're all going to perish together as fools. Yes, as nations and individuals, we are interdependent. It really boils down to this, that all life is interrelated. We are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny, and whatever affects one directly, yes, sir, affects all indirectly. We are made to live together because of the interrelated structure of reality. Did you ever stop to think that you can't leave for your job in the morning without being dependent on most of the world? You get up in the morning and go to the bathroom and reach over for a sponge, and that's handed to you by a Pacific Islander. You reach for the bar of soap, and that's given to you at the hands of a Frenchman. And then you go in the kitchen to drink your coffee for the morning. That's poured in your cup by a South American. Or maybe you want tea. That's poured in your cup by a Chinese. Or maybe you are desirous of having cocoa for breakfast, and that's poured in your cup by a West African. And then you reach over for your toast, and that's given to you at the hands of an English-speaking farmer, not to mention the baker. And before you finish eating breakfast in the morning, you're dependent on more than half of the world. Yes, this is the way our universe is structured. It is its interrelated quality. We aren't going to have peace on earth until we recognize this basic fact of the interrelated structure of all reality.
Certainly very true and very inspiring words. Well, friends, this time to bring the 2022 celebration to a close, but of course it wouldn't be appropriate to do so without offering all the special thanks to all the persons and people who have made this event possible. First, to the local spiritual assembly of the Bahá'ís of Paradise Valley. This ceremony and this celebration was conceived by them 24 years ago and is financially supported by the Bahá'ís and many volunteers. Second, our co-sponsor, the town of Paradise Valley, who of course provides us with this lovely facility, with additional volunteers and also with the audio visual. Next, as part of that audio visual, I'd like to thank Duncan Miller, the town manager, or town clerk, excuse me, who doubles as an IT expert here. Thank you very much, Duncan. Third, we would like to thank all of the teachers, the school administrators, and parents who have made the essay contest such an integral part of this event. These two additions to the Martin Luther King Day celebration were created to foster that ideal that Dr. King spoke about the youth of our community participating in a concrete way. And finally, I'd like to acknowledge with special appreciation the committee who has worked so hard for the past 1 year to bring this event to fruition. The co-chairs, John Winterstein and Nika Ramsey, Dr. Kamran Ruantan, Taj Sabet, Leva Mani, Connie Sana, myself, Nilufer Niknam, Dr. Kana Chinsami, and Nicolas Mentha. Next year, friends, we're going to be having a Silver Jubilee celebration. It will be the 25th celebration of Dr. King's life and legacy. And if you are interested in participating as a volunteer or joining the committee in any capacity, we always welcome new blood and diverse views. On the website that you logged into today will be posted after today's presentation, an email address if you're interested in participating. So with that, I'd like to bid everyone a good day and a farewell. Thank you.